Hello everyone, how are you? So here we are again. Now I would like to introduce you to Michael Toner, CMO at Threedium. Hello Michael, how are you today?
I'm doing terrific. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
I am good, thank you.
And we're excited for today's discussion and ready to get into it.
Fine, so the stage is yours. See you at the end, okay?
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Very good. Thank you all so much for joining. We have a very special panel lined up today. Just to set the scene a little bit, my name is Michael Toner. As I was introduced here, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Threedium. And Threedium really believes that by democratizing the creation and distribution of 3D and AR experiences, that we are witnessing one of the greatest opportunities to improve the way people buy and sell products. So today in this discussion, we're going to cover all these changes in technology, how brands are adapting, and what's next when it comes to sustainability, the metaverse, NFTs within the fashion world. And I am joined by two very special guests. First, let me introduce Miss Irene-Marie Seelig. Irene is the CEO and co-founder of AnamXR, an XR-focused company at the intersection of gaming, architecture, and cinematic visual design. We also have Natalie Johnson, the CEO of Neuno, who works with luxury brands to launch NFTs as digital fashion collectibles and wearables on the Flow blockchain. So I've set a little bit of the scene. We're going to get into some questions. We're going to have a good roundtable discussion. Let me describe some of these colliding worlds of fashion and technology. Specifically, technology such as 3D and augmented reality. And in the retail space, it really needs to be socially acceptable in every respect. Secure, private, unobtrusive, easy to learn, easy to use, effortless, reliable. The technology today is still evolving, but so is the consumer behavior. And with that as the backdrop, I'm going to bring my first to you, Irene. How have you seen buying behavior change, especially during the last 12 months during the pandemic? Consumers getting really comfortable with contactless shopping, e-commerce on their phones, stepping into virtual reality metaverses to do those shopping experiences. How have retailers had to adjust? How have your clients adjusted? And how are you guiding them through it?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure. How I've seen the consumer behavior really shift. Of course, in the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was wondering, what do I do? How do I connect? A lot of brands were wondering, how do I connect to the consumer? Consumers on the other side were really curious on, also how do I understand the brand? What are they, really offering me anymore? And so what we do at AnamXR is bridging those gaps. So helping brands connect to the end consumer in a fun, enjoyable way through a branded metaverse, essentially. And they can explore different products and also, through gamification. And really, brands can start telling the stories that they want to tell. So, you do see a lot of brands dabbling in a lot of different metaverses, whether that be Roblox or a lot of other ones that are out there. But really what we're offering is a way in which that brands can house their own, aesthetics and really connect to the end consumer, especially when it comes to sustainability storytelling.
Very good. Yeah, thank you so much. We're going to get into the gamification, the metaverses. We'll dig in even to the sustainability aspect. I want to come to Natalie, sort of the same question to you, Natalie, but let's bring in the element of the blockchain here. Blockchain has really been around for a while, since 2008. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, really invented in 2014, but both of these things really rising to the surface over the last 12 to 18 months here. What have you seen as the biggest changes really driving this behavior, and how are retailers adjusting, and what is driving these technologies into the mainstream?
Yeah, well, look, blockchain, as you say, has been around for a long time, but it's not necessarily been consumer friendly in terms of if you don't know the crypto space and have masks and wallets and all these things, you've got to get pre-approval financially, and it's not that easy to this world unless you really know what you're doing. And I'm speaking from experience. I tried to buy an item on blockchain in about November 2019, and it was a really clunky, awful experience. And I thought, wow, I'm just going to leave blockchain to do its thing. And then I started working with the Flow team that built a blockchain, and they took key learnings from an exercise back a few years ago when they had crypto kitties, and it was so successful. But again, these sort of teething issues, and so they went away for a few years and nutted out, how can we make this convenient? You just need a credit card to transact. They built the Flow blockchain purposely with that end consumer in mind, and it's specially set up for trading assets. So it's a much more user-friendly blockchain, in my opinion, and that's why we're using it. So, if you don't know much about crypto, you can just have your credit card and still transact, much like e-commerce.
Yeah, I think that's one of the critical elements of the point I tried to make at the beginning is this technology really needs to be easy to learn, easy to use, effortless in order for it to really truly become ubiquitous. Irene, I want to come back to you. We kind of got a quick introduction here to what each of your companies do. One of the things that ties us all together is I know you all are working with a lot of luxury brands as they're looking to implement these types of new technologies. So, Irene, I'll come to you. Working with these brand questions are they asking as they look to implement, whether it's a metaverse strategy or some other digital technology they're looking to add to their strategy?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of brands come to us really trying to figure out where do I fit in within, what's going on with virtual fashion or digital fashion. Where do I fit in with all the different metaverses that are being put out there? And so that's kind of what we help them out with is really designing their own metaverse, helping them, communicate their brand storytelling, their narrative, aesthetic, and then how do they interconnect to all those other different metaverses and how do they be fluid? So a lot of brands, we work with many different ones where they're at different stages, whether that they have, 3D assets already, so 3D, digital fashion assets, or we help them out with developing those out. And then all the way to the environmental build and, getting, that metaverse going. We've tested it, try and true, definitely for, navigation and going back to the consumer, thinking about, these are consumers that are not necessarily gamers. So how do you make that as fluid as possible? And then how do you connect that into their e-commerce? So we directly connect into existing e-commerces. And so we're not duplicating, all that work that's gone into there. And then as well as NFTs as well. So we help them along each kind of stage, depending upon where they at and when they come to us and how they can integrate with the larger metaverse at whole.
You started by saying, really helping them with the brand storytelling. I'm curious, are brands struggling as they start thinking about entering the metaverse? And there's got to be some challenges there of how does this fit into my brand heritage? Does it make sense? Or are companies or brands asking themselves that hard question, which should I even be doing this at all? And how are they landing on that?
Yeah, definitely. Again, brands come at many different stages. Some are kind of already in that digital sphere and others are completely new to it. So a lot of them who are new to it do actually want to communicate about their brand heritage. Maybe that they have, manufacturing unit that they're already showcasing in a beautiful, space that's, for instance, in Switzerland or different areas, and they already have a physical kind of setup to show the brand heritage and how the products are actually being made, and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, we help them digitize that and get that out to the rest of the world, so it's not just locked up in one location. So it has been interesting in terms of, at different stages when brands come to us, but also why, and that why kind of roots back to how can I better tell my brand story? How can I communicate my heritage to younger consumers who might not know it at all? And how do I connect to those younger consumers in a platform that they're most used to?
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like just like a lot of technologies, a lot of the social channels, it's not just about picking a channel and jumping on it. It's really necessary to have a strategy. And I like how you frame that in the brand storytelling and really leveraging these new channels, these new vehicles or metaverses to tell that brand story. Natalie, I'll come back to you and dive in a little bit here on the NFT side. Um, this as a new cutting edge technology really rising to the surface just over the last few months. How have you seen, or why are NFTs becoming connected to fashion so quickly? What's driving that connection?
Well, I think we've seen, exciting stories in NFTs around the art space and these big ticket items and these sort of like artists that have these followings and fashion has dabbled a bit, but I think the long-term play here is unlike a piece of art, digital fashion has such a wide use case. It's not just a pretty picture, although it can be. We can wear these items in different worlds, and definitely be that comes to mind. We're talking in a metaverse of sorts now digitally, and you could wear something as a filter. In a corporate world, you could attend a virtual concert and customize your avatar in a branded outfit there. There's going to be endless and boundless opportunities for digital experiences as either yourself or as an avatar. And either way, you're going to be wanting to, just like in real life, dress yourself and customize that experience. So I think the luxury fashions are coming and they're going, wow, we've seen these examples of great digital fashion in games. That's a very obvious one. There's so much more to that. And I think NFTs unlocks this art category or wearables. And then because you can trade the NFTs, it unleashes a whole new stream for brands and traceability. So, we've got some of the biggest luxury tiers joining together, unheard of in the industry, creating a blockchain called the Aura Network. And they're doing on blockchain NFTs, or sort of looking at the supply chain. So, a customer can see an item, scan that, and look at the factory and the fabric and where that's come from. So there's so many uses for how blockchain can support this industry. And I think it's a bit overwhelming. You definitely, like Irene was saying, you need that strategy. Why are you here? What are you trying to tell your customer, and kind of go from there.
Well, even as you talk about the supply chain, I mean, that is such a critical part of so many brand stories, especially as we
Yeah.
we start to really surface the importance of sustainability in fashion. And so I think I'm hearing the same theme there of stepping into NFTs really requires that storytelling strategy. Why are you doing this? What is the long-term outcome that the brands are looking for? Um, Irene, and maybe we can kind of go back and forth, and we'll make our way into the sustainability angle of this. But Irene, how are you helping brands to fit these kinds of technologies into their existing customer journey? So we're talking about the strategy of having the story, knowing what it is you're setting out to accomplish. And then when you go in to then start building it, you've got to plug it into those existing, you talked about using their existing e-commerce. Where else are you seeing these kinds of digital experiences fit into that buyer's journey? Where is it most successful?
Yeah. So, I mean, we see it definitely on both sides when it comes to B2B and also B2C. So, a lot of the brands come to us kind of thinking one way or the other, and they end up using these metaverses for both. And they see it a way to connect. So, a lot of times, if brands are selling B2B, they can, talk to, other businesses and, really, really kind of explain what they're doing when it comes to material science, for instance, or those sustainability storytelling, whether it goes to ethics and on social aspects. It's a way to visualize. We're such visual creatures. And a lot of times the sustainability narratives get lost. There's a lot of greenwashing going on. And so this really helps for them to kind of put their stake in the sand and, communicate that to a wider audience and, different levels of consumers, no matter what their education level is, because that has been a major barrier that I've seen across many brands, that they want to communicate as much as they can, but at the same time, they don't want to bore or not have people understand what they're trying to communicate when it comes to this more complex topics. And then, where we also fit in again is, from a B2C standpoint and really engaging with the end consumer. And then as we start connecting to NFT platforms and getting in on there, just like what Natalie said, looking at ways in which you can, cross hybrid, where else can these assets live? So we kind of help them out, if they already have 3D assets, bringing that all the way through their pipeline, and bringing that ROI into marketing and sales. But then what is that longevity? Where else can that live? What other utilities can those 3D assets be used in? And so that's, where we're helping brands kind of looking at the whole strategy and not just be so focused on, okay, I need to kind of play in this field, but, really what is that bigger strategy behind it?
Yeah, I want to make our way into the sustainability. It's becoming a big topic. I know it was a whole day's worth of topics here at the Fashion Tech Week conference. So, we're talking about taking physical goods, turning them into these virtual assets, placing them in metas, NFTing them on the Flow blockchain. I guess what is the segue here to the sustainability aspect for somebody who's uninitiated, who's saying, Michael, how does this connect? How is this technology connected in fashion and sustainability? And Natalie, maybe I'll come to you first with regards to NFTs. I mean, how is the NFT technology helping in this respect? Because you do hear some of the stories right now with certain blockchains, the carbon footprint. Talk me through the connection here between fashion, NFT, sustainability.
Sure. Look, Ethereum is being used for a lot of NFTs at the moment, and it was never built to trade assets. It was a cryptocurrency. So it's not, it wasn't set up to this purpose. It's kind of being forced into, which is why I think, Dapper Labs, when they created Flow, it is a lot greener. I'm not going to go into the statistics. I'll leave people to go and do their due diligence there. In terms of a more macro level, I think how NFTs can be used in a really interesting way is challenging the current business. So we create these beautiful, hyper realistic, photo finished 3D renders. The experience online, customers can zoom in, they can do more than just a e-com, photo and video of someone wearing this. They really can turn the product all upside down, inside out, and have a good look at it. And you could we're talking with some brands about reverse engineering. So you buy the NFT and it unlocks a physical product. So if you had a slick enough supply chain, or, a really beautiful mess and a VIP, there's only a few of these ever made. What a nice story, you're challenging people to come and buy the digital asset and then unlocking and actually receiving the physical one. If you could produce, it doesn't get more sustainable than that. And then taking it a step back, let's just destroy the link between physical items altogether. If we can get people engaging in fashion digitally and wearing great skins and in different metaverses, in different arenas, they don't even need to buy the physical product. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out that is more sustainable. Yes, we're using electricity, of course, but there's not air pollution of shipping these samples and products all around the world. Logistics are less, packaging is less, toxic dyes are less, abundance of savings by consuming fashion in a digital way. And ultimately, look, we all love fashion, right? We're in the industry and we want retailers still make incredible, inspiring pieces. But if we can encourage the next generation to play with fashion and consume it in a new way, that's got to be a benefit long term, right?
Yeah, very good. Irene, I want to come to you and kind of get your take on how are metaverses contributing to the sustainability aspect, and then have a follow-up question kind of regarding the emotional connection to brands. But let's start with the sustainability. How are brands, what is that connection between sustainability, metaverses, and the fashion world?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of waste that goes in between, from product creation, looking at digital samples, and then bringing that into route of sales, whether that be B2C or, B2B. And so we're really helping out with, kind of turning that on its head, not having to have so many of the samples. Also stores. I mean, stores were already kind of declining before the pandemic. And then of course the pandemic kind of obliterated a lot of that, and you can see it. I mean, at least I'm in the United States, and you see there's not as many, stores that are stocking up like they used to. It's all digital. Also, of course, being able to see it in full 3D, hyper realistic, you can get more of a sense. We're also looking at, 3D try-on and those sort of aspects, and that will help with, returns. And then again, also on what Natalie was saying in terms of the, just why are we even doing physical? Why don't we just do digital when it comes to, consumers that just want to wear it on their Instagram or showcase it if they're, at some event, and just have these digital skins. Why does it need to be physical? And let's really reduce those amount of returns. So again, and then in terms of the metaverse, just reducing those impacts on physical stores and B2B retailing. And there's a lot of studies out in terms of what that looks like when it comes to travel and fashion weeks and things like that. And of course, we're always going to want to have those fashion weeks, but why can't we also still connect digitally and have those less of an impact?
Yeah, it's actually a good segue into my question around the emotional connection. So Natalie was describing, as were you, these hyper realistic 3D assets where somebody can pick it up, turn it around, have a good look at it, as you see. I guess I'll start with you, Irene, and we'll come to you around, does that interaction, does it replace the emotional connection, especially that luxury brands are typically creating store? And, I'll just leave it there. I mean, can it replace that, or is it a supplement to it? Let's start with you, Irene.
I definitely think, So, I mean, I definitely think the replacement aspect, I mean, everyone wants to be able to touch and feel, but you can already start seeing that there is a bit of a replacement there with e-commerce and how, users are, of course, wanting something that's convenient, but they still are missing that way to connect. So now, our e-commerce is just an inventory list, but there's no way to really understand or get more of that emotional connection to the brand. I think it's going to be, of course, a hybrid of both. But more and more users are, getting, especially younger generations, can still kind of get that experience online without having to see things digitally or physically. So seeing them physically is not as much of a need anymore. Of course, there's been that slow transition, but we already are seeing that, of course, with what's going on with e-commerce and when people buy things, more so on their phone than desktop. Of course, you always have your phone on you. So that's a way where you can kind of already start seeing those like main transitions there.
Yeah, I think it is the blending of the physical and the virtual, and what that's going to look like once we all have Apple View glasses on is a whole nother place to go. But Natalie, I guess, the same connection question to you about the emotional connection. Yeah. Are you seeing that in terms of buying behavior when it comes to purchasing these fashion NFTs, these collectibles? I mean, what is the buyer emotional connection to that digital asset?
Yeah, I think we're doing some product from, brands that are heritage brands that are 250 years old. So going through the archives and bringing pieces back to life that you wouldn't be able to get in the past. I think to Irene's point, you can't ever replace the physical rush and it is we can't do in the physical world. So I think that's where you can build up, especially with things that are happening in the world, lockdowns, things like that, stores closing. There's more to e-commerce than just putting up some photos. So with digital experiences and NFTs, it's getting a new is that you can't, I don't think we should be comparing like apples and apples. It can enhance physical. So as stores are opening, we're using NFTs to drive strategy of increasing footfall back into store. Can we gamify this? Can you buy an NFT and unlock, you know, like you're finding this NFT, can we unlock, you know, physical prizes that you can go in store and find. In terms of emotional, you know, we've got some brands that have a very important message around a political message or a charity that they want to support, and we can, you know, donate all funds of an NFT to raise awareness for a certain cause. And online, you're reaching global audiences every time you do a launch. So I think time of day, yes, you know, it's 10:30 for me at night here, but like if customers are willing, you know, you can launch globally with a particular message which you've never been able to do physically in stores before. So there's so many different emotional ways that you can tap into this and experiences. I think, Irene, you know, it's a perfect example of what you did with the Pangaea store and built this world that you could go in digitally, and you're in the Arctic and, you know, the snow's blowing at you. I mean, you can't recreate that in the real world. So yeah, I think you got to be creative, right? And it's not about just replicating in the physical. I think we've got technology to make us and allow us to do even more fun things. So it's focusing on that.
Yeah, expanding beyond what is possible in the physical. I think that's the part, and maybe Irene will come to you if you want to describe some of the work that you've done here. I think what I'm curious to know is, especially over the last 12 months, and I'll use this next round of questioning to kind of bring us home of what's happening next. You know, what is the next wave of this evolution? But my guess is that brands have been experimenting over the last 12 months. They've had to adapt. They've been forced into trying new things that otherwise they may have been a little more risk adverse prior to the pandemic. You know, what are some of those trends that have emerged? What are some of the alpha tests or pilot tests that you have seen brands more willing to run and expand that creativity, something that you may have never been able to do before, that you've seen emerge specifically because of this new technology and because of the context of the global pandemic?
Yeah, so of course with the pandemic, it's definitely expedited a lot of virtual fashion, digital fashion, the testing within these spaces, and more, of course, like how we build out our products for brands is essentially we have either templates or customized experiences, and brands have been, you know, more willing to test out these customized experiences, just like Natalie was saying, in terms of, you know, taking someone to Antarctic. If there's a puffer jacket, why not make them kind of feel that they're in that, you know, world, and give that visceral experience. We've been also testing out with brands around, you know, hiding Easter eggs, and, you know, again, talking about that connection with physical and digital. Why can't you hide those Easter eggs also in stores to start bringing more foot traffic in those specific locations that brands really want to like drive high traffic? And so, yeah, we've seen, you know, brands just kind of testing things out from a marketing, from a sales perspective, bringing in, you know, a lot of their digital assets into doing something a little bit more, and utilizing that again too for like a global scale, doing a global launch, you know, across many different time zones and being able to reach many different people. So yeah, and again, our platform is all based on browser, and so this really helps for that, you know, barrier to entry. Of course, as technology gets better and better, that's helping, you know, them to communicate to more wider audiences. And of course, you know, virtual reality, there was such a kind of barrier in the beginning because of the headsets, and as that gets more and more integrated into our lives, as glasses come out and things like that, we're, you know, watching that market. So thinking about, you know, where the future is of this, and can we just start overlaying different metaverses and worlds in our, you know, physical environments, or, you know, clothing and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot that can happen. And what's great too is, everything that we build, we archive, we keep, just like I'm sure Natalie does as well in terms of NFTs. And you always have that instead of a physical product that might get lost in the system or, not know, or it deteriorates. With, digital, you can really keep utilizing that data. And we love to communicate that this is, think of it as real estate and something that you can always build upon and that it doesn't get lost in time. So so that's kind of where we see it headed and where we are at today.
Yeah, I love this idea of the physical space being used to unlock the virtual environment. And from a strategy perspective, especially as we exit to drive more foot traffic, I do want to actually a follow-up question to you, Irene, around the analytics, and we can go as deep as we need to here, but what types of data would a brand be looking at in these metaverses, and are they immediately trying to equate it to their standard store metrics, how many people walk in, foot traffic, those sorts of things, or are there other types of engagement metrics that you feel are more valuable?
Yeah, so of course it's foot traffic, and if you also think, physical stores, like there's so much value on different parts within, the space of a physical store, and how often those are being, where that foot traffic is headed. But brands are also looking at, did they engage with my storytelling here? Did they try and understand a bit more behind, the sustainability aspect, or how do they engage with the heritage aspect that I also put in here? So we're looking at from, our metaverse is looking at all the data analytics that we gather, basically the entire metaverse, if you will. So it depends if someone does a physical or it looks like a physical store, or an entire world where one of our most recent product launches with Pangaea, where we had, different stages, and it was more gamified for them to get to the end to pre-order, for instance. So kind of seeing where we lose people, where we, see people get to the end. Are they getting to the end? Also, are they still exploring after the end? Are they coming back for more? It's interesting to see, we time out our experiences. And so typically they run around 8 minutes, but we see people hanging out in there for about 30 minutes or more. So it really depends. And what's great too is we really see this bridging the gap between many different demographics. For instance, our first launch, where we had this this dancing Yeti at the end. It was our Easter egg, and there was a fun TikTok song at the end. And as the mom was watching the experience, her child ran by and saw, and then they started playing the experience over again together. So it was a nice way to kind of bridge the two. And of course, for that brand, it was for Pangaea, they are looking at both men's, women's, and then of course children's wear as well. And there was no children's wear in there, but of course they still kind of got that FaceTime and that connection with younger generations to feel engaged or to feel included. So we always like to add this very inclusive aspect to our metaverses, where again, anyone at any level can play, and anyone at any demographic. So it's very interesting how people are using, or how brands are using their data analytics for targeting.
I can see that because we're talking about a whole new paradigm shift here. Even I made the connection of trying to connect the analytics to existing analytics, but to begin thinking, really break that entire paradigm of what is it you're trying to measure? Is it the engagement with the brand heritage? And it comes back around to that brand storytelling and the strategy from the beginning. Natalie, I'll come to you as we start to wrap things up here. What are some of the latest, e-commerce trends, technology trends, anything kind of alongside NFTs that you've seen really emerge and that brands are experimenting with, perhaps more importantly, that they wouldn't have otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, you would know at Threedium, right, how important 3D and enhancing your e-commerce is. I think a lot of brands are coming off, a tough trade year with COVID and store shutdowns, and their e-commerce has been their one window globally for customers to interact. So now a lot of retailers are up on huge numbers from last year that they're trying to improve on, and so it's anything that they can do on their own site under their own brand that makes sense for their story, but is still playing with technology. I think we've seen such an appetite for experimentation. Every single day I knew a story of someone doing something or an experience or a collab. So I think it's great seeing the appetite there. 3D is I think the most obvious, easiest way to unlock a lot of worlds and a lot of technology. So I think that's what brands should be focusing on. You can do quite simple things to your e-commerce that have immediate, huge impacts on returns, on just being able to view that product in AR or something like that. So yeah, I think 3D is the most the widest casting net, if you will, to unlock a lot of this tech out there.
Have you seen any 3D NFTs? I'll go to have you seen anybody starting to experiment with that yet?
In terms of brands, I haven't seen any brands do it. I've seen sort of unbranded, up and coming students, 3D artists doing interpretations of, there's an Hermes handbag for sale on a website at the moment, but it's nothing to do with Hermes. Just to be clear, what we do is we only work directly with brands, so we're working with artisans off there at the moment. Customers and the tech's not quite there, or the brands are quite there. I think everyone thinks, yeah, I want to wear a digital skin in a game, like, let's go. That makes sense in my mind, it's logical, but it's actually quite complicated technology to make that a seamless, beautiful, not pixelated experience. So I think customers are ready for it, and not just gamers. I think people want that tech. They want fit tech. They want to try something on. They want to flick between sizes. But it's the technology needs to kick up a gear before we're quite at that seamless level.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to wrap us up and put a bow on the whole conversation. I think that's really where Threedium is focused, is driving this technology forward in partnership with you all and our amazing world of partners that we are working with to drive this technology, to make it ubiquitous, to democratize the creation of these 3D and AR assets. I will give a quick plug. We're doing a webinar next Thursday. We've got an awesome panel lined up talking a lot about the future of luxury retail, these types of technologies, and we're going to hear directly from the brands. So I want to thank both of my guests, Irene-Marie Seelig and Natalie Johnson, both so much for joining. And we'll talk with you all soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Hello. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
very
so much.
Thank you too. Thank you too, girls. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. And see you soon.
All right. You all take care.
Bye. Thank you. See you soon.